I'm your host, Nova, and we're here at the Killers of the Flower Moon premiere in New York City. How are you doing tonight?
Okay.
Yes, you look very lovely. The legend in front of me.
Oh my God.
I would love to know, as a legend and as a director, why was this story essential to tell? And at this time right now.
Well, to be honest about it, we didn't know it was right for the time. We were just drawn to the story about how people could be so close together and yet be involved with hurting each other in such a way. And so that's when we finally decided that it should be told through the marriage as much as possible. Lily playing Molly and Ernest, because in reality they loved each other very much. But all this is going on, and a lot of it has to do, it happened to be focused through American history, which is perfect, and also represents pretty much dynamics of civilizations coming and going throughout history. And the whole idea of ultimately who is there such a thing as a superior civilization? Do we have a right?
I would love to know, as a director, what was your greatest challenge with directing this piece, and what maybe surprised you about your directing abilities when it came to this movie?
I think part of it was being a New Yorker from downtown, was where to place the camera in the prairies. Really, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, the prairies are beautiful. The exteriors are wonderful. One of my, working with the Osage, at first I was very concerned, but immediately when I met them, we all became friends. And that I relied on them very heavily. So that was the key.
How are you doing this evening?
I'm good, thank you.
It's also the man of the hour. It's based upon the book, and I'd love to know, as an author, what was maybe one scene that you knew had to be in the movie, without a doubt?
That is such a good question. You know what's so funny is, as an author, I never think of scenes in movies. I really don't.
Okay.
I work with documents, and I think of stories. But for me, the fundamental history, I never knew if it would be a movie. But what is so amazing is that this is such an important part of our history, and for far too long it has been erased. And now to know that more and more people, not only in the United States but around the world, are going to know it. But for me, the heart and the soul of the story was always, and this history was Molly Burkhart. And so every scene where she is there and present and speaks is a real gift. And Lily Gladstone is just tremendous. I think everyone will know her name after this film.
I believe it. And I'd love to know, speaking of that, what was the chemistry like on set? I'd love to have a little bit of a behind the scenes.
Well, I was only there for a few days on set. I got to see a few of the scenes which are now in the film, and they are tremendously powerful. I saw films with Leonardo DiCaprio, with Lily Gladstone together in several scenes. They both play these real people. I mean, these are real people and real events. Ernest plays one of the most complicated roles I could ever imagine. I think it's one of the best performances I've ever seen, not just for him, but of anyone. He captures the ambiguity of Ernest Burkhart and this kind of level of complicity. And Molly Burkhart Lily Gladstone captures Molly, her strength, who she was, how she kind of straddled not only two civilizations, but 2 centuries at that period of time. And they have this very complicated relationship in real life and on the film, and they both bring it to life in such a haunting way. By the end of that film, you will be haunted by that relationship.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and this is such important work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
The director of photography, I would love to know, what was the quintessential aesthetic that you were going for, and what was your vision for the film? If you could have an elevator pitch right now.
Well, I wanted to represent the connection of the Osage to nature. And so everything around the Osage Nation, I photographed with natural colors, natural light, with the presence of the sun. And yet, the other part of the story, the dark side of the story, was represented by a high contrast in the lighting, chiaroscuro, and also the beginnings of color photography. So when Ernest arrives and his beginning of his journey has a look that represents autochrome, which is the beginning of color photography. So that would be the main thing, the difference of color between the descendants of the European settlers and the original people from this country.
Very interesting. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I would love to know, why was it so important to remain authentic, and how did you do so in this film?
Well, we have been subject, like all tribes, to other people telling our story, and they do it by mixing cultures and giving an image that was made up in a studio somewhere. This movie went right with our culture. We invited them. They took up the offer. It's a very complex, ancient culture, and they really embraced it. And it was a process that took several years, actually. Remember, COVID came in the middle of this, and I asked Marty Scorsese, what did you do in that time? And he said, well, I worked on the movie every day. So it's a collaboration, a deep, deep collaboration.
And this is obviously a personal question, and you could feel free to not answer it, but did you feel at any sort of way that it was a healing process? Did you find it a triggering process, or anything that you feel comfortable sharing?
We have found, talking to some of the descendants especially, how much the grief is still there. And so we decided as a people to chastise ourselves for not recognizing this sooner. And we are working hard now to build and operate the kinds of system and facilities that will face anxiety, face grief, face alcoholism, drug abuse, stress. Those are big, big issues, and we just have to face it head on, because there is something called generational trauma. I've learned about it. It's real.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is such an important movie. Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you doing this evening?
How are you?
So I would love to start off with the fact that you had such an essential job.
Yeah.
And I would love to know, how did you keep that authenticity alive, and what was your vision for the film overall?
I think being a genuine person and that's who we are. I am who I am, and I guess as an artist, I kind of see that a little bit better than maybe most. The film itself is just it evolved every single day. So consulting, it was a big bag of early morning phone calls and just trying to make sure that everything was accurate and go as fast as you can and just do it right.
So being that it was based on pretty much a book beforehand, what was the most important thing that you grasped from that book that you knew had to be in the film? Was there one specific scene or one specific message or something that you knew had to be in it?
Well, I know that, the book obviously is there's so much information and so much detail, so I think whenever they started to write the screenplay, that's where they really tried to they had to kind of tear it down a little bit and really kind of get to the core of what story would resonate with people that they could connect to. And so, I don't know if you've read the book, but it's just, there's so much information on other facets of Osage and what we went through and how we're still here. And the fact that we're still here is, it's by the grace of God. I just don't understand, at any point we could have all been wiped out, but there's a lot. That's a loaded question, there's a lot to it. Mm-hmm. There's obviously parts of it that I was just like, oh my gosh, I could visually kind of see it as we were reading. Yeah. Did you
find, and it's okay, you don't have to answer if you're not comfortable, but did you find any of it triggering at all? And if so, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, of course. After 9/11, when the Open Records Act came out, they released all the documents the FBI did. And again, as an artist, I went through and I poured through them. And I think the hardest part is the details of my great-grandfather being murdered. And in my opinion, when they did kill him, they got very sloppy. It was so, they were all so brazen that they got to him, and it just was not a good scene. And so it started to raise even more red flags to the community and the local police and, the outside police that were coming in, and yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is such an important movie, and thank you for being a part of it. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
And you look beautiful.
Thank you.
I would love to know, what are you most looking forward to, and why is this story so essential to tell?
Well, this story is really essential to tell is because my greats, Henry Roan, I'm one of his descendants, and it's really powerful to that our story of our families being told is really important to me and my grandparents.
I had the privilege to work in this movie, but I'm a Navajo filmmaker that happened to be a part of it. I go to NYU right now, and I think the part is just to be part of Scorsese. And then I learned about the true story of this, and it just takes you back and really blows your mind, like what actually happened. So for the first time, I get to see it on screen, and I'm actually excited to see everyone's work here. Yeah.
And can you speak a bit about representation and why that is so important, and how you feel that that was showcased in this movie?
Well, representation is really important to me as an Osage and a Prairie Band Potawatomi, is that our stories aren't always told, and that this is a very important for Indian country in general, especially for Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, I mean, to talk even the topic of Native representation in Hollywood is like we're like micro, you know. And I think this movie's a footprint to Indigenous talent. I think the world's going to see Lily Gladstone shine, and the Oscar campaign's coming.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And what has the feedback been like in your town? How has everybody received the news of this film?
Well, back in Pawhuska, it's very exciting to a lot of people, especially within the tribe. A couple of town people are really excited as well, like doing it. Everyone's saying like, "Oh my gosh, they cover the streets in dirt." Like, a lot of people are very excited. I'm glad that I come from the Osage Reservation.
I'm not Osage, so she's the one to talk about all that. But I live with my aunt who's Osage, Tracy Moore, and from what I hear, it's going to be phenomenal. You know.
And for somebody who hasn't seen it, what do you hope that the audience takes from it? If there's just one essential message.
One essential message is that we're still here. Like, we matter, and our families should be recognized for that. So that's what
we're still here, and welcome to the Native American Renaissance. It's happening.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a good evening.